Like 2/3. Probably bring it down. I told you. Oh, 10 people. There's 10 people in here. It's a lot. Now there's 8. I don't know if that's backwards. Is stuff backwards for you? Or can you guys read that like normal people? What the? Act right art? Oh, that's cool. Appreciate it. It's so weird looking at it though. You better say something smart. Okay, watch this. Boom. Goodbye. Later. Oh, wait, no, I didn't do it right. Hang on. Timeout. Let's go for a minute. Put him on timeout for a minute, see if he hangs around. That's kind of fun. I didn't know you could do that. You put people on timeout? What else can you do with this thing? Start a poll. Top chat. Live chat. Filters? You can do filters? Oh, that's kind of cool. Interesting. What's the mute file? Oh, we're just hanging out, you know, nothing. This is like, you guys are going to see this on the next video I'm working on. And I already had it together. It's already done, basically. I already shot the video. I'm editing it right now, but I figure before I erase this fine work of art, you know, maybe we could talk about it or something. If you guys wanted to talk about it or you had any questions. So if you want to ask questions, you can ask questions. If you want to ask questions about CQB, you can, because I got this here, but you know, you don't have to. Apparently YouTube is doing this thing where, I don't know. Hey babe, can you check out my live stream? Do you have your phone?
No, I find it.
Dude, you're freaking, God. All right. We'll see if you're still here, Art, in 10 minutes. Freaking people, dude. Show people where the fatal funnel. Show people where the fatal funnigans. That's kind of funny. That's a very interesting thing you're asking me to do. What's up?
Where do I go?
I'll get to that. Give me a second. I don't know, my YouTube channel?
Well, Yeah, I didn't know what you were.
I don't know. I don't know why. This chair, though, it's a problem. This chair's a problem. Because on the podcast, I'm gonna have to get that fixed. Maybe I'll ask you guys some questions too. Kojo, what's your, what is that? Is that you? Oh, you got nods on. One of those guys, huh? So interesting enough. Interesting that you asked that question, or asked the question, or show, demonstrate, or whatever you asked me to do. Some guy said I better say something smart. So I muted him, or put him in timeout for a minute.
Like a punishment?
Where is the best place to stand when there is a window on both sides of the door? Anyway, let's go in order here. So the fatal funnel, I mean, it's anywhere standing in front of the door. So this is your doorway, your threshold. Anywhere in this area is considered the fatal funnakins, like I said, fatal funnel. And generally speaking, you don't want to stop there or stand there because you could get killed there, I guess. But the video that is gonna come out tomorrow, I believe, I go over 2 entry methods, and that I'm familiar with, that are basically taught, and that's just dumping into the room, right? So like when you dump into the room, or you flood the room, essentially as the 1-man and the 2-man. Let's see, you guys can see this, get a little bit closer. So you guys are probably familiar with this, or you've seen this, so for the sake of this, we'll just say this is the doorway here, and this is the 1-man and the 2-man. So like dumping into the room, because there's really two methods that are taught, that teams they do one or the other. They either dump into the room or they step center before going into the room. And stepping center is it kind of screws with the idea of like the fatal funnel thing, right? So when you're dumping into the room, basically the 1-man has 2 options. He just flows straight to this hard corner over here, starts to clear that corner, collapses the room back down. As he's pushing into the room, the number 2 guy is supposed to be right on his back, and this number 2 guy will button hook. And then they'll end up in the room like this. Since he was first in the room, he'll try to take 2 corners if he can, and then 3 and 4 will come in. But the other dumping into the room is, instead of the number 1 guy taking the path of least resistance, he'll button hook. And then in which case, this other guy who's on his back as that's happening would take that opposite corner, and he'll still go 2 corners if he can, because that's the number 1 man's responsibility, is to try to go 2 corners. So that's dumping into the room, but what I like to do, what you'll see in this video that's coming out, is why stepping center before you go into the room is probably the preferred method of entry once you've made the decision to go in, because there is also like pieing and threshold evaluations. But for the sake of what we're talking about here, let's just say we are going to go into the room. So we're back here and we've made the decision. We are going into this room. We're not going to slowly pie around and do all this stuff out here for whatever reason. And so instead of dumping into the room, the number 1 man, as he's approaching this, room, he's going to start looking into the room. Everybody's going to do that. You should be doing that, right? Picking up the angle as quickly as you can and start collapsing the room down from the outside. And as far as he will go is he will basically just step dead in the center. And when you do that, it automatically, if he's coming from this direction, right, he has basically cleared this area here. I mean, or at least he hasn't gotten to an engagement. There could be other things that he hasn't cleared around, of course, or whatever. But by stepping center before going into the room, he is now seeing, you know, this angle over here as well. So, you know, basically before they go into the room, he will have seen, you know, most of this here. And what that allows you to mitigate, which is the whole purpose of this video that's coming out, is the standard, right? Well, I guess you can't see that. The standard. So, you know, all tactics should be based off of that right there, right? A bad guy with a gun waiting for the first opportunity to kill you. Because if the standard doesn't exist in any environment, CQB or vehicles or whatever, then it doesn't matter what you do, right? It doesn't matter if you walk backwards into the room or, you know, you do whatever. It doesn't matter because nobody's trying to kill you. So if you are, you know, creating tactics or looking at tactics or being taught something and you're trying to determine, like, is this the best way, right? Of course, there's a number of different ways to do things, especially in tactics. But ultimately, when you start messing around with the standard, you can essentially determine what the best way of doing something is, right? And you do that through this right here. How long does it take us to get, or time on target, how long does it take us to get accurate rounds on the bad guy, right? And so, like, a lot of these things are, can be tested, right? So I pointed out in the video, I show video of Navy SEALs doing stuff and Green Berets, and I demonstrated, I think, fairly well of how much time it takes people to even see anything over here when, you know, realistically they'd be getting shot at already. So, right, because in real life, let's say this is our bad guy, and he's here, okay? And we're gonna dump into the room, right? Well, the first two guys, they never see any portion of this part of the room, right? They're either here and here, or they're here and here, okay? So what's gonna happen if you dump into the room and the standard is there waiting for you, is the first guy is gonna get shot immediately, most likely, right? So he gets shot. The second guy, what does he do when he comes in the room, if he can even make it in the room? Well, he's going to do what he's supposed to do. He's going to do his job, and he's going to get to his corner because he doesn't know, probably, more than likely, if the gunfire is coming from here or back here. So he has, you know, that's his job to get to that corner. So he's going to come here. So now he's getting shot at. Now he's getting shot at. Now maybe he's also shot. And then you have the number 3 guy coming in, finally picking up the center of the room and collapsing the room back down. And also, you know, I don't know the details per se, but, you know, the Houston or the San Antonio hostage rescue that happened, I think, a couple months ago by now. You know, they went into a room with the bad guy with the gun, was waiting to hurt them, and that bad guy shot the first SWAT officer and killed him and shot the second SWAT officer. So then everybody else that came in afterwards, you know, dumped on the guy. You know, I mean, like, that's the reality of CQB. Not to say if they would have done something different, there would have been a different outcome. But, you know, one of the things I talked about in that video is most of the training that we do, and especially CQB, it's always done, seemingly done in a controlled environment, right? Meaning, you know, there's freedom to walk around wherever you want to, you know, there's nothing impeding you. Like all the videos you see training, you know, really on YouTube or anywhere else, you know, it's an empty shoot house or empty simunition house. And that's like not reality, right? If you've ever been inside of a house in the city, you know, as a cop, then you know, like, that's just never the case. So that's just like one facet of training and CQB. But then there is also like the chaotic version that most people never train in. and even when you train in the chaotic environment, obviously you can't replicate real life, right? But we don't even really kind of try to get close to replicating real life, because what we do is simunitions, right? If you're on the SWAT team and you're like, okay, guys, we're training with simunitions, right? And I've been in a lot of simunition scenarios. Like SWAT people don't go down, right? Like, and like officers don't go down either. Well, typically, I mean, maybe they have like in, you know, because they're like, my leg, weren't expecting it or whatever. But they also teach you not to go down, right? Because they want to teach you, you know, to fight through it. So unless they deliberately stage up, like, you know, an instructor will be waiting inside the door, and then they'll make entry, and he'll be like, "Okay, you're shot," right? I don't feel like we do a good job at that because, you know, let's see, in Houston, we had one officer that was killed by a Glock switch, standing in the doorway. We had another officers that were dumped on with a guy with the Glock switch. After a vehicle pursuit, and then I think I want to say there was another one that was a prevalent Glock switch deal with cops involved. And like, so that's like real life, you know, like that's the standard. Like if there's a dude standing here with a Glock switch, which is reality, why wouldn't you want to do as much work outside of the room before going into the room? You know what I mean? Like it just completely makes the most logical amount of sense. And there's people out there, instructors or whoever. I encourage everybody to do their own thing and, you know, whatever. I leave people alone. But, you know, and I have a timer in this video that you guys will see if I can get it done tomorrow of how long it takes you to get rounds in this area when you do the dumping method, when you push into the room or you button hook into the room. When these first two guys go into the room, if the first thing they see or try to see is their hard corners, it's like 2 seconds or it's like somewhere around 2 seconds before anybody's able to get around down here. Well, the reality is that dude already started shooting at you, right? And so if the standard exists anywhere, you know, anywhere in this area, I would rather be out here working this angle and the gunfight happen out here, right? Because what's going to happen, let's say if he's here and we're like, okay, we're going to make entry. Now, before I push in, I also, if I am going to make entry into the room, I also want to do that. I also want to finish shooting before I go into the room if there is a guy in there with a gun and I actually am going into the room, which is another thing, because if you start shooting at somebody out here and it's not a hostage rescue, you're not going into the room anymore. But anyways, but the reason that if you were going to push into the room and you were to engage the guy from here, you need to be done shooting by the time you break the threshold, because you still have to finish your responsibility, which is the hard corner. So if the guy's here and we're moving up, I would rather step center and look at this whole thing and at least be facing the dude when he shoots at me. Maybe get into a gunfight, whatever, because he's gonna shoot first, right? Like that, the bad guy is always going to be the one to shoot first if he truly is the standard, a guy waiting to shoot you with a gun. So you're going to be reacting to gunfire. Hopefully it didn't hit you or it didn't mortally wound you. You can return fire, but let's say you don't and you get hit, or you just get hit hard enough to where it knocks you down or out or whatever. This guy is going to step up and also try to get in on the gunfight himself, which that guy will also have to contend with. And then at the end of the day, if there's a problem out here, we're still out here, right? And we're not stuck or trapped inside this room with this guy. Another thing, you know, like training does a terrible job at this is, you know, all of our bad guys are either paper targets that are just standing there fully available for you, or even the simunition, right? Role players, they're always like standing there, you know, usually in the corner or wherever, and it's like, yeah, I mean, there are bad guys that are standing there, but I know a lot of them that were like hiding, you know, like on the side of a bed or something, or they're crouched down behind a dresser, right? So yeah, let's see what we got. Jesus, all right. Show people, all right, do that. So I don't use the terminology. I'll get to the window thing. I think it's well, let me answer that because I think it's an easy response. Where is the best place to stand when there is a window on both sides of the door? Well, I'd have to see it to answer your question. I mean, you might not have a choice other than to stand somewhere. So I can't really answer that without really seeing it, to be honest with you. Anyway, so slicing the pie or cutting the pie, I don't use that terminology, but that's what most people know. And I use the terminology, a threshold evaluation, which is, it can be done fast. I mean, you're doing it here, right? In this technique where you're dumping into the room, even if we are, or not dumping, but let's say we're stepping center. So, you know, an active shooter, right? You know, we're not really taking our time during an active shooter. We're trying to clear as much of the building as possible, as quickly as we can, if we don't know where the shooter is. So there's two different, you know, ways to slice the pie, or, you know, threshold evaluations. And it's like, you know, in a deliberate way, which is slow and methodical. And I have a video on that. So I'd probably just go watch that video. I think it's called Threshold Evaluations, actually, the video. But you can go watch that. That'll explain it. But anyways, you know, in a deliberate way, you're just, you know, picking up as much of the inside of the room from outside as possible as quickly as you can. So you might start in here, pick up, you know, as much of this as you can, and then maybe you haven't seen this here. So, you know, there's only so much you're going to be able to see. So once you get to this point here, you can start pushing out this direction. And then, again, you're collapsing the room down from the outside, but you're using, you know, the corner of the threshold as like your working area as you move. So if you're here, and as you start moving, it starts opening up your angle like this, instead of just kind of stepping out here and overexposing yourself immediately. And you do that very slowly, like you just very slow and methodical. If you need your light, use your light, looking high, low, near, far for anything. Like, again, you're not just looking for a you know, regular sized dude that's standing there. I mean, you got to look for, you know, things that are out of the ordinary, like a dude's pair of shoes sticking out from, you know, a bed or something like that. Or you see, I mean, anything like clothes that are, you know, messed up, or something that looks freshly broken, whatever that thing is, you know, a dog, a small dog that's like roaming around a pile of clothes or something, right? So that's just doing it slow and methodically in a deliberate way. And you can do it to where you end up all the way on the other side, and you have this guy now looking in here doing some of that work too, and then you're working this. And like, that's really the best way, because now we've seen absolutely as much as we possibly could before we go in there. But you may not be able to, because there might be more threats down this direction. So that's not always an option, but it's a good option if you know, it makes sense, makes tactical sense. But then there's also the deliberate, or you know, you say like a dynamic way, or hasty threshold evaluation. They actually call it like a hasty threshold evaluation. So you're just doing the same thing, you're just doing it faster. You know, just like if we were dumping in the room, we were making a decision to go in the room, yeah, you're still doing a threshold evaluation. So in the video that I'm going to play, it's going to be in the opening of the video tomorrow, and it's also going to be towards the end or something like that. And it's a Navy SEAL doing that. And I'll do my best to explain it in the video. But yeah, you're just doing the same thing, slow, slicing the pie, they call it. You can do it slow if time's on your side, there's nothing rushing you. That's like, especially if you're just like in a house looking for a bad guy who may or may not be there. That's the speed that you would move. And then, yeah, just hasty is just moving quickly, doing it fast, and then pushing in. So, I mean, if you wanted to, you could move fast all the way across, come back, and then make entry in the room. But that's what a slicing the pie is. Slicing the pie, cutting the pie, cut the pie, slicing the pie. We wouldn't center step anything unless under night vision. It becomes extremely dangerous because you have an entire room to scan and you must PID. Okay. Listen, Joe. All right. When the standard exists, which is a bad guy with a gun who's trying to kill you, if it takes you longer to get around on that guy dumping into the room, that's not the preferred method. It will never be the preferred method. You can do whatever you'd like. Yeah, you're like, okay, we have rules to follow. Exactly. And you have to not only get inside the room with somebody who's shooting at, or maybe he is not shooting at you yet, and also determine what he has in his hands when you're face to face with him, or you can do it outside the room. That's the whole point. When you dump into the room, if the guy isn't in this corner, these two dudes are in the room for 2 seconds before they even, I mean, they're already shot. And it happens all the time. No, he's not confused because multiple men are entering. He doesn't care. He's looking for a person to be visible at the threshold. He's going to start shooting. He's not confused about that. Yeah, at some point, will it divide his attention if you can all get in there and get spread out? Yeah, but I don't know if there is a single case where a dude was waiting with a gun for an officer to break the threshold, and then, like, oh man, they came in here so fast, they spread out so fast that he didn't shoot anybody, and if he did, it was luck. It's like, it just doesn't happen. You could set up a simulation scenario, and every single one of those dudes is going to get shot, except maybe the third guy. And then, of course, they're going to stay up, and then they're going to shoot him too, and they're going to be like, we won. It's not limited penetration. It's not penetrating at all. Limited penetration. Like, if you watch this video tomorrow and I show you a dude's engaging this guy, right? Because this is the video, right? These two guys come into the room. He's being shot at right here, but he's facing this direction. Okay? Like, you don't magically, like, move so fast that, like, oh my gosh, like, that was so fast, man, where'd he go? Oh, I missed him. Oh, now this guy came in. Oh my God, I missed him. Oh my God, now I'm dead. Like, that's ridiculous. It doesn't happen. I mean, it happens when the dude's asleep on the couch, okay? But, so, it's like 1.87 seconds, right? This guy comes in. I start the timer at the moment where he's visible. Start the timer, and literally the target's right here. Start the timer. He comes in, does his scan. He comes in second. Of course, he's the first person to come around and shoot, and that's in 1.8 seconds. 1.87 seconds. And I haven't put the timer on the other video yet, but the dude's here, and he steps here and shoots. I mean, I don't know what the time's going to be on that, but, like, it seems like very obvious. And if somebody, like, it just blows my mind that people would counter that argument that I want to choose the way that takes me longer to shoot the bad guy. It will never make sense. And unless you're on a SWAT team and there's a particular reason why you're throwing flashbangs, they're not even part of the conversation. Because, like, cops don't have flashbangs. Well, I was gonna pull my books out, but they're like stuck there because I have them leaning up against something. But Training at the Speed of Life by Kenneth Murray. It's basically a book about simunition essentially, training with simunition, active shooter events, and response by alert. That book basically shows that on average you have a better chance of eliminating threats and not getting shot and having a more fair chance of shooting people from outside the threshold before going in. Anyways, but it's like basically a what is it? What's the word I'm looking for? That they tested it on like times or whatever, but it's like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like negligible almost, but it is better. And but like it's funny, right? Because like Joe, you're talking about dumping into the room, and then I'm gonna play a video where a Navy SEAL literally pauses in the threshold to shoot a guy, and I'm gonna explain why that makes sense, and it makes sense because he's the first person that's available to shoot the bad guy. So if you're there, you should do it, right? Because for him to bypass that and dump into the room, the clock's ticking. He was already shot or getting shot at, right? Because he didn't shoot at him. And now we're waiting for more people to come into the room and then clap down our corners. It's just crazy.
Do you want me to read these questions?
Yeah. After,
The books.
yeah, I guess the books.
Blue U Defense official said, "Hey man, good video. Gotta run. Cheers, brother."
Thanks, buddy.
Lost Soul should incorporate why SBRs are important and effective for CQB.
I don't agree. Well, I do agree with that. But I guess my question would be, most people 9.5 inch or 10.5 inch, I don't know, I think they're 10.5. But I've had both, and I have a 12.7, which is right here. And if I collapse this buttstock, this is the length of my buddy's 10.5. So if you really wanted to do that, you could. But I like the idea of the ballistics with a little bit longer of a barrel, and it is considerably easier to control. Like, you should be able to control anything and shoot anything. But one of my buddies, he put me onto the longer rifles than the 10.5s. And another reason why I suggest that size rifle or something similar is for vehicle stuff. And people would be like, well, no, because moving around vehicles and the shorter the thing, it's like, I'll just use 12.7 as an example. And if you have that, you should be able to do all the things that anybody else can do with the 10.5 inch. The advantage is in the class that I teach, the high-risk vehicle encounters, essentially, you're getting up into the V position as the person who is engaging the bad guy. And, the shorter your rifle is, the more likely that you will end up shooting your own car, because instead of being up in the V position and having your muzzle, at or just beyond the V, it's probably going to be slightly back, which isn't a big deal. It's got to be something you have to be conscious about and, make sure that doesn't happen. Not from an embarrassment standpoint or like nobody wants to shoot their own car because they don't, but more or less, that's a round that's wasted. You know what I mean? What you got?
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Sorry, I was reading ahead. Art Loomer said, "I just want to be your friend, but I screwed it up." I don't know what that means.
Yeah, he did. Tell him to act, or don't tell him. But anyway, Art, like, just be a normal human.
Banana Man said, "What's your opinion on 3-man cell?"
3-man cell?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how do you spell cell?
CELL.
I don't know what that is.
Like a jail cell?
I don't know what that is, but you tell me what it is, I can tell you.
Okay, Goose wants to know your favorite Taco Bell item.
Dude, I haven't been to Taco Bell in forever.
Dorito taco.
But probably a Dorito taco. It's been a long time.
Kojo has lots to say. That the term, dude, it's called limb pen. You call it what you want. Let me come on live. I do this for real. You obviously don't. You're bringing this to a specific scenario. I'm talking getting multiple guns in room versus standing in the doorway. I never choose that way either. Never flashbangs either, because I know not everyone has them. Standing in doorway of a guy.
Okay, just answer me this question. Answer me this question, Joe. If the bad guy is here, you're telling everybody that you would rather the number one guy come in blind, and let's not forget, like in real life, you're fucking getting shot right here. Okay? And then you're just gonna fucking eat the fucking carpet, okay? And then this guy's gonna come in like, what's going on? And then he's gonna get shot. I mean, it just happened, okay? And two SWAT dude, one got killed and one got shot. Like, that's what happens, okay? So let me ask you a question. I know what you like, okay? But like, if the standard is a guy waiting to kill you, okay, with a gun, I would assume.
He said, nope, you're not getting it.
Okay, well, answer me this question. I would assume that the goal in that scenario.
Who come in like that? This is what he's saying.
Everybody right comes in like that. That's the corner you have to check. Or you button hook. That's it. Anyways, so how fast can we put accurate rounds on target? If you disagree that that's the standard and that's what we're striving for, then I need to know what the standard is, and everybody else does too.
Someone said, "You're drunk, Joe. Go home."
No, it's what it is. Like you guys are gonna freak out when you hear what I say in this video. It's hilarious because this is the prime example. Like, CQB is the least likely thing you're gonna need to save your life. Okay, that's the truth. Okay, for every single cop that's ever existed. Okay, go pull up the last 20 body cameras and tell me, one, how many of those are inside of a structure, and two, if they are inside of a structure, CQB was a necessary thing that needed to be happening in that moment, right? Because who gets into the most shootings inside of structures? Like regular cops do. Why? Well, because they're on calls and they're investigating crimes, and people are assholes and they try to kill them or whatever. And then they're like, oh God, he's coming around the corner. And they're just standing there. Like, that's what happens. You know, on average, like, and so, you know, and if, you know, you're going to say, well, point out all these instances where patrol officers, you know, were doing CQB and were successful, then you'd also have to say, well, cops are really good at CQB and we know they're not. So CQB is this like thing that's heavily guarded by dudes that just like, I don't know. They're just, it's a dude thing, man. It's annoying, you know, because it's the thing that like, I get people want to do it because it's cool and it's fun and everybody feels powerful when they're walking around, moving around a structure with a rifle. And it's the same dudes that I guarantee you, Kojo he's anti-shield guy. I'm willing to bet Kojo is anti-shield dude.
Downrange Future said, Joe, he isn't meaning you just stand in the doorway. He's meaning you start your scan from the outside as you're coming in.
Yes.
Okay. Someone said they eat chicken.
But then again, but hold on a second.
Okay. I'm just reading.
But so I don't know if I do a good job at explaining this in the video, but like, it's you're better off as a man to be like open-minded and listen to other people's perspectives and actually like stand back and think about things instead of projecting that like, well, no, because this and because that. And it's like, well, one, we can test it and we can pretty much determine like that's what we should be doing anyways, why that is or isn't the best way of doing it, because we should all be striving to do things the best way because What? Hang on.
There's people saying mean things in here.
About me?
Like, no, they're spelling out bad words.
Oh. Because
Sorry.
better usually means safer. So we're all on the same team, right? Because we all want the best information. But the problem that happens when individuals like aren't willing to come off of their thing and want to enforce their thing on everybody else as the thing that is the best thing, is that it becomes problematic when I show you a video of a Navy SEAL doing the thing that you say you should never do, and then a Green Beret doing the thing that I'm saying is better, that you're saying you should never do. So it's like, who are we listening to here? You know what I mean? Are we listening to Joe? Or are we looking at Navy SEALs and Green Berets or whoever and saying like, oh, well, that's the way to do it. And I think like ultimately the way to do it is, you look at the way everybody else is doing it, you're taught how to do things, and then you have conversations about this. And you actually just like look at it and be honest about it, and don't like formulate your opinion off of what it is you think is best because of all of these times it's worked for you when the guy wasn't waiting there trying to kill you. Because let's be honest, that's what's happened, right? I mean, if you Joe have gone into a room, if a guy was in here, Joe, for you and your team, as you did whatever it is that you like to do, and he shot at you and missed, well, you got lucky, okay? I don't know if that's happened or it hasn't. Or you've gone in there and the dude's been asleep and you're like, show me your hands, and then he reaches for a gun. It's like, oh, we got him. This technique is awesome. It's like, what are we basing these tactics off of? And that's largely a problem. Like, we just are told things, shown things, and you're like, yeah, that's the way to do it. And then you just really just have to step back and look at it, think logically about it. What are we actually training for, right? I have it up there. And if that's the case, what's the goal, okay? And if we're getting farther away from the goal because of what we think is the best way of doing it, you should reevaluate. But maybe there is no better way, if it takes us, 2.5 seconds, just throwing numbers out there, to get rounds on the guy when we dump into the room after he's already been shooting, or it takes us 3 seconds or 2 seconds to step center and get into a gunfight, and it's like, okay, that took us less time, but you're like, well, now I'm exposed because I'm looking at all this, and it's a one-on-one, which it wouldn't be because they step up and they help each other, they put two guns into the fight, but you're like, okay, I don't want any of that. I like the other way. That's better. The way that takes me longer and puts more people at risk, like that, I like that way, because that other way, it's faster if you can shoot, but he's also shooting at me, and I don't know, like whatever the logic is, it just falls apart because the other way is not as good. It can't be. It's impossible.
So the last thing he said, the most recent thing Kojo said is, I've gone into hundreds.
Yes,
and
we know.
No, dude, I've heard those same stories and hate them. That is not where I'm coming from. He says he also trains with SEALs. They'll make you wonder. Green Berets and Navy SEALs, I thought we don't care about backgrounds and gatekeepers. That's what he said.
Okay. First of all, gatekeepers are, when I talk about gatekeepers, I talk about how training is gatekept from officers, and that's the only, or training is gatekept from officers by other people or whatever. So that's what the gatekeeping is about. I don't know, I haven't referenced that in any other way. And then we don't care about other people's backgrounds. I've said that a number of times. Just like the dude who, the acorn guy who was walking to this car and an acorn fell out and he started blasting. And that dude was like in the Army, in the Special Forces, but he didn't see combat. And it's like, it's hilarious, man. Yeah, you shouldn't look at people's backgrounds. That's why I'm not. I'm looking at a video of a demonstration of doing the thing. That's proving the point. If I was looking at backgrounds as the metric for, credibility, then it wouldn't matter to me what I'm seeing. I would just be like, oh, dude, like, cool. You're a Navy SEAL, like, awesome. There was this guy that I want to say it was Delta. He's a Delta guy. And I came across him on YouTube. And, I doubt that there's somebody like claiming to be Delta or a SEAL or whatever on YouTube. And he had like a decent following. And I watched like some of the stuff that he was doing. And it was kind of like, I honestly couldn't tell if some of it was maybe like like goofy entertainment or something in some way, which isn't their style. But he was on the range doing stuff. And I think I screenshot it and I was gonna post about it, but then I didn't because I felt like that wasn't the right thing to do. But the thing about that's funny is like, he came off as like a goofy guy that didn't didn't represent what I would consider like one of those guys, right? And there's a lot of those dudes out there on the internet, right? And they look the part, they act the part, and he wasn't that. And I was gonna post about it and say like, this is why background doesn't, but it wasn't nice, so I didn't do it. But anyways, what else we have?
The security guard channel says, "Good evening. What are your thoughts on the Acorn shooting? No PID of the suspect in a neighborhood, etc. Would love your perspective. Appreciate you."
Yeah, I've been asked to do that video, and I don't think I'm going to because I don't know. There's just too much going on with it, and well, when I watched the video the first time, I was expecting to hear some like pop, like I think I knew that he didn't get shot at. That's why I was watching it. But I figured like a tire popped on a car or like somebody rolled over a bottle in the street or something as he was like approaching the car. And like it's just one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen. I don't really know how to like I don't know, do you call the guy an idiot? you know, like, and then he wasn't in combat or anything, so it's like it's clearly not a PTSD thing. I read the entire transcript between him and the person that interviewed him, like the investigator or whatever, and he just sounded like a reasonable dude that thought whatever happened. But so like it's crazy. Like the only way to talk about it and explain is like it's just crazy. Like I don't have a way to like explain that. I heard somebody else explain it who loves to talk about police interactions, and I won't name the guy, as like because cops are under a lot of stress and hyper aware, and he had been thinking about that. He had been thinking about that because somebody had mentioned that he had a gun, and so when he was walking back to his car, all he was thinking about was the fact that this guy probably had a gun on him, and then when he got to the car and he heard that triggered him to go. And I'm just like, that seems stupid though. like because he's also not walking into the car or interacting with the other officer as if he's worried, right? Or he might have a gun. Like, and if you were, you probably wouldn't go over there by yourself. I don't know. It's just a bizarre thing. I think he resigned, and they also found neither of them did anything wrong, right? And and then like from the female's perspective, like there's like I don't agree with what she did. I have to say that first, but there could be a time and a place where, as an officer, based on the facts and circumstances that exist at the time and what you perceive, you decide to make a decision without seeing it for yourself, we should say. And a good example of that is like an officer who's struggling with another officer over their gun, or perceivably over their gun, and you're like the backup officer, and the officer is telling you like he's got my gun or shoot him, but you don't actually see it. Like that's happened. And there was the Oklahoma, I think it was the Oklahoma officer who was a field trainer, female, who got in the fight in that driveway, and I think that was one of those instances, which like, you're operating off of like just what you believe is happening, and you can't really be held liable for that. But as like an individual officer, like I'm so caught up in wanting to make sure I'm right, or like so close to like absolutely knowing that I would, so that could be a thing, right? You could do that. And so she shot at this vehicle because he was shooting at the vehicle and said that he got shot. And the problem that I do have with that, though, is that she didn't hear the shooting happen, right? Because it didn't happen. So I think that, like, personally, I'd have been like, what? What? And then, not hearing the initial gunfire, and then he's like behind the car, right? As he's shooting. So maybe she doesn't know, like, is that him shooting or is that the suspect shooting? So now she's shooting. So I just don't really like, it's not her fault really, if that makes sense. Like she's operating off what she perceives to be happening, even though it wasn't actually happening, which is a thing. But I don't want to like make excuses for it because it's all kind of crazy. But next, did I answer the question?
I have no idea. You just kept going and going and going.
Well, I hope people like my answers.
I don't know. We're way far behind. Keep it simple, hon.
I don't want to.
Okay, fine. Ryan Berry, first time watching. I'm subscribing. Thumbs up.
First time watching this
You, I guess.
on this.
Anywhere, probably. This is first time he's subscribing.
Oh, that's cool. Thank you. Yeah, Instagram or not Instagram. I can't be on Instagram lives. But I guess YouTube is doing this thing. Did I tell you about it?
Yeah, you texted me about it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that works. That'd be cool. I'll probably do these more often. But I'd like to like be doing something other than just sitting here answering questions. So I might do that. But then also I'm like, I guess I could do that. I could be doing the thing and then you could be reading me the questions as I'm doing the thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
We could do that. Angie said stop cussing. She said it multiple times, but I haven't heard you cuss at all, so I don't know what she's talking about.
Who?
Angie. Angie Gideon. She said stop cussing.
Can I cuss though?
I don't think you did, but
I did.
I don't know.
But anyways, can I?
Who cares?
I'm
Yes,
just saying.
you can- yes,
but
you
look,
can
hang
cuss.
on a second. We
You
got to
can
address this.
You can cuss.
Yeah, I think we can because this is my thing. like, I'm just gonna be myself. If it comes out, it comes out. But I don't cuss really.
No, you're fine.
I don't.
Christopher Dixon said, dude, you're putting out great info. Thank you.
Let's go.
Let's go. Stop cussing.
I'll say this. So, first of all, the things I put out and the stuff that I talk about, it's the most relevant stuff to me. It's the things that I see. And, like I serve law enforcement, obviously. That's the audience. So that they can it's not like this, oh, yeah, I guess it is go home to your families or whatever, but it's like stop doing dumb stuff and you'll increase the likelihood that you will go home, and like here's other tools available to you to help you go home, and also like be accountable so that you don't do something stupid and the public tries to hold you accountable and then you have to go through all that stuff. And I don't know, and maybe you guys can help me with this, like when I look at what content is out there, I don't know of any organization that seemingly look at them and they're like, oh, they are just like, they talk about law enforcement, they are law enforcement, they teach law enforcement stuff that's directly related to my job, and that's what I'm trying to do, or that's what I'm doing. And so I don't know that is a good thing because first person or first, there's a couple other channels that are like more educational and talk about case law and stuff like that. But I'm kind of doing all of those things because I think they're all important. But the training aspect is what I enjoy and what's important. The problem though with that is, cops don't like to train or won't train on average, so I don't really want to. I had this discussion on the last live I did where people were talking about civilian stuff, and I just don't want to. I mean, I don't have a problem with the civilians or whatever, but also at the same time is like the question is going to become at some point like, is this sustainable? You know, like there's only so many cops out there, so see what happens. But I plan on staying police oriented, and you know, kind of like I assume depending on where you work, I guess your smaller agencies don't have these types of things, but you have a tactical training or a patrol training unit, right? And they have their role in their job, and they teach you whatever curriculum comes up that year, or that class you have to take that year, or twice a year, whatever it is. You know, and that stuff is, you know, probably whatever the department wants you to know. Maybe it's not the best. Well, I guess training in general, like when it's organizational, isn't the best. So, and I like being able to, when you have your own training and your own courses and your own curriculum, and you teach it in your own way, present it in a certain way, and spend the time doing the thing that you think is most valuable in the course. So, you know, if you go, I've talked about this a number of times, but you know, I have to do not quarterly training, but yearly training. Let's just say active shooter, like Texas cops have to do active shooter twice a year. So when I go to that training, I may never get an opportunity to shoot at a bad guy. I may, you know, and that's not good, you know, like, and so that's a problem, right? But it's not, we all know that training isn't set up so that you become good at the thing. It's just set up so that we get you through the thing. And so in my courses, like my students shoot a lot of simunition because they may have never shot simunition before at all. But we're going to spend a lot of time doing the thing you never get to do. At least if you never do it again, you will have done it a whole lot today. So I don't know where I'm going with that. What else we got?
Jay said the problem is the culture. I've had many people scoff at me for tucking my jacket into my gun belt so I can still access my belt. The problem is the culture.
Yeah. Yeah. So I actually wore this at work, or been wearing it. It's been colder. And I actually said this in a podcast with John Calhoun, and I think the podcast, the title says, it's like him shooting or something, says Officer OIS or something. There's two, part 1 and part 2. And he got into a shooting, and it's a really freaking crazy story. And you should go listen to it. It's pretty good. But, you know, I think he said he wasn't wearing a jacket, which it's Houston, Texas. So it's, what was it today? 140 or? It
was below 32 today in the morning.
Oh, so it was like, you know, but it's a still coldness, or there's wind. It's not ice and snow and all that stuff. But I don't wear a jacket for that reason. I wear just a thermal underneath my t-shirt or my work shirt so that I don't have to worry about it getting in the way. Yeah, it's a good idea. That's what I would suggest, but I don't know where you work, so maybe it's not an option for you. And they make a bunch of jackets now where they're good. They can go over your gun belt, and like, you know, your gun will stick out and all that stuff. If it's a thick jacket, I don't know how you would get it underneath your belt, but
he tucks it in so he can access his belt better.
Yeah. Well, but you said the culture.
Yeah, he said it's the culture. People say stuff about him tucking his belt, his coat in his belt. The problem is the culture.
Yeah. I've heard of cops talk about that. And I haven't experienced that in terms of gear or how you wear your stuff. I'll say, you know, at work, like I always grab the shield, like in the morning, and people give me shit for that. And every, you know, like they don't give me shit, but they joke about it, right? like, oh, you're gonna need that thing, like, oh, and they don't even know what the thing is. They don't know how to use it. They're afraid of it. It's too heavy. I don't know. But it's and then and what my mind says every morning, or like when they say stuff like that, is like, dude, I'm gonna be the one that has to like go through the doorway or like get up to the where you're down to get you. Like, and we had that happen where an officer went down, and the officers that were with the officer retreated, and the officer was still alive, and the officers who retreated were asking for help, and somebody got over the radio and said, if you have a shield, launch a rescue, and they didn't. And if you don't have one, then you should just go anyways, because the time is now, right? If somebody's down, you got to go up there and get them. So then the officer got executed because they didn't, perceivably because they didn't act right. Not to say the shield was the problem, but you guys have probably all seen the shield video. Like I have. That's another crazy thing. Like, people just don't understand like how incapable they are at handling a problem with their rifle when they just like never have an opportunity to see it coming. And that's what the shield allows you to do, which gives you an opportunity. Well, I don't know why I'm talking about that really. Hey, but like, there's like 45 people in here, and I only got 5 likes. It's kind of whack, dude. I don't know. Maybe if you like it, it'll help me out or something.
Let's see. They are. Robert says.
There you go. See, I'm getting some likes now.
They're teaching threshold evals now at the police academy. Unlike back in 2009, they were teaching the old way.
Yeah, it's so funny that people get killed every single time they want to do the speed, surprise, and violence of action thing. And, they get killed when the standard exists. And, dude, it's just, wait till you hear what I say in this video. It's hilarious. That's all I'm going to say. I sum it up in like a sentence. And it's this thing. It's this thing. Again, like you're supposed to be tactical, you're supposed to be thinking about these things, you're supposed to be into this stuff, and there's people that they are, right? They wear the vest and they got the rifle, they got tattoos all over their arms, whatever, and they want to be out there doing the thing, right? Well, like, it just blows my mind that you wouldn't want to do the thing as safely as possible and as right as possible. And just like the example here where it's like, this took you 2 seconds and dudes got shot, versus this took you 0.5 seconds and maybe you got shot, but at least you were facing the guy when you did, and this guy's going to step up and support you. And it's like, it should be a very reasonable thing as a person to objectively look at the two things and say, okay, yeah, I think that's probably the better way. And it's the same thing with the rifle and the shield. It's like, when I started talking about shields on Instagram, every speed, surprise, and violence of action dude showed up there to tell me it just slows you down. But not a single one of them showed up to the video that I made to talk about their solution to the problems that I posed. And that's because, well, I don't think that the solution to the problem is one that they'll like. Here's another thing. I've been thinking, I need to make a video on this, but like I said earlier in this live, that the best thing that you could do is like keep an open mind. And even with me, like I've been taught things by instructors or to learn something, and I learned this early on, that the best thing to do is just like receive the information. You can form your own bias on it because you're going to, but there's a chance, and it happened to me a number of times where I was like, this is dumb, I don't get it, like this doesn't make sense. and then you left there, or the next day you did it some more, like, oh shit, I get it now. Yeah, okay. You know, I'm glad I didn't make that a big deal, because I actually like this. So that happens. But here's the other thing, and you can tell who these people are, and I posted something about it, is I turned never people into sometimes people, but those people are still never people. And this is what happens. We'll just use the video about the shields as an example. Like, there isn't a better solution other than what I posed. If you have a shield and you're just like, you have to make an approach. And once people see that are anti-shield, they basically say, like, you know, they don't admit, like, okay, yeah, now I see the value in it, but they do start saying things like, yeah, but only to the breach point, you know, and they say it in a way that they make it sound like, okay, well, that now they like them and they use them at the breach point, but they don't. But the truth is, they still don't use them. And that's just a matter of fact, because I've seen it happen and play out in real life. So that's weird to me, that people would see the value in something and then still not do it. And then there's people who's like, okay, well, at the breach point, but then once you get inside, you know, it's not helpful or whatever. And then you show them, like, okay, well, upstairs in I did this on my Instagram, you know, upstairs in the hallway, like, it would really suck to stand here looking at these closed doors, you know, just waiting to get shot. And then people are like, okay, well, yeah, I see the value. It's like, well, you fucking left the thing downstairs, bro, and you're already standing there. Like, the shit doesn't make sense, man. People's logic, and they're being irrational about their logic behind using it and not using it. And, you know, it just falls back on, you know, have it if you have it and use it if you do have it, because you're just going to end up where you are, and if you don't fucking have it, you don't have it. Like, you're not going to be a sometimes guy like, oh, well, we left it in the car, you know, someone go get it, we're in this hallway, I don't want to stand here anymore. Yeah. So, you know, another instance, like the shield is, I sent an email for a guy with a shield, or a company, and hopefully he gets back to me. Someone recommended it to me. I hope I can work with him, and he sends me some stuff. It's just like explaining this, right? Here's a good example. We've done this before. First of all, does anybody ask anything?
Yeah.
All right.
Going off on tangent.
I don't know. Okay, well, hang on a second.
Okay.
So something I haven't gotten into, like, a public conversation about, which is, this is what police do. This is what SWAT teams do. This is what TAC teams, this is what they do. Very rarely do they do speed, surprise, and violence of action, okay? They gain footholds, right? The absolute best thing you can do inside of a structure is have the ability to formulate a plan, send a minimal amount of people forward to complete tasks, execute that plan, and then make more decisions. Yes, you should be able to flow into a house you've never been into and hit all your corners and everything's covered, right? Like, magically. Like, that's the worst case scenario. If you don't have to do that, because it's really you're not really doing what you think you're doing, right? So the best thing that you can do is covert searching stuff, which is stuff I'm really into. I just haven't had time to talk about it or get into it, but there's a lot of things that you can do, you know, open doors from down the hallway, close doors, manipulate the environment, and things like that. Whenever my team got inside, when I was on the TAC team, got inside of a structure, it was, once we gained the foothold, it was slow and methodical. You look at a problem they're holding, you're looking at the problem, you're looking, okay, what do we have? Okay, we have a closed door, open door. Okay, hey, we're gonna close that door, and then we're gonna, right? Manipulating the environment, you know, psychologically. You know, maybe if he's in there and the door's closed, he's not gonna shoot because he doesn't see anybody, so he's gonna wait, right, or whatever. But you're knocking things down methodically. But of course, at the point when it's time to go into the room, however you get here, whether you if you pie all the way across, at the point, let's say you've seen all of this, you just haven't seen the corners yet. Yeah, you have to move really fast through there because your speed is the only thing that might save you from getting shot. But a shield situation that we had to do one time, well, this was the decision that was made because this is what we had. So let's just say we had actually the rooms went the other way. But we'll just say it looked like this, right? It was a narrow hallway and there was opposing threats, doors at the end of the hallway. And we had, everything else was knocked down. These were the only two things that we had left. And we only had like 4 dudes to do it. So what do you do? I mean, you could, you know, SIMO it, right? You could send 2 officers in here and 2 officers in here simultaneously. And maybe you run into some issues with some crossfire stuff or whatever, depending on the angles and all that. And that's an option. It's not wrong. But, you know, if you have a shield, right? Because, like, ideally, we'd like to send 4 people into a room, but at minimum 2. So if I can remember it correctly, you know, however it went down, I don't remember, but, you know, the team flowed into one room and the other officer pinned the door with the shield, right? So if you've done CQB enough, then you have heard of, you know, pinning doorways or eating the doorway, which means like, hey, we're not going in there, but we need you to like sacrifice yourself for the team so that we can go do something else, like move behind you or go into a room or something. And when you're eating a doorway, you're doing the thing that Joe said you should absolutely never do, which is literally stand here and with your rifle and just like sway back and forth. Like, you know, like you're actually going to do something. That's eating the doorway. That's pinning the doorway. Sometimes you have to do that. Like say that you are moving direct to threat or wherever you think the threat is. And for whatever reason, you know, some guys are going to push to the threat, but some guys are going to be pinning doorways, right? And in that case, like, that sucks because you're just standing there and have all of that stuff to look at or whatever. All right, next question.
I'd like more information on various room types since it's never a square room in real life. I'd like opinions on odd room shapes.
Okay. Well, it's kind of a tricky answer, but I mean, there's really 2 types of rooms. I mean, there's center fed and there's corner fed. There's only really those 2 types of rooms, right? Because your doorway is going to be somewhere. It's either going to be in the middle or it's going to be on the end, or it's going to be like a hybrid where it's closer to the end than it is in the middle, if that makes sense. And the fundamental principles of CQB never, they're always going to be there, and those are your guiding principles. So they don't change depending on what the room looks like on the inside. Now, things that happen, but this also falls into fundamental principle things. You say odd shaped room, so let's say, you know, for example, there's like a wall here or something. But this also, I guess this would be an odd shaped room or something. But this also, let's do like, I don't know what this is, but this is here. Well, that kind of looks like a room now. But that's an odd shaped room, right? So let's say there's this. Right, this is an odd shaped room. This is like a typical, really something that you expect to see in training or whatever. But so again, we'll just do fundamental principles, right? So no bad guys, because when bad guys are in there trying to kill you, you get shot, and that sucks. So you know, let's do step center because we'd already discussed why that's better. All right. So this guy steps center and he decides, okay, I don't see anything, nobody's shooting at me, I'm committing to the left side. I'll also add that stepping center, another added benefit, which I didn't mention in the video, is that you if you know what you're doing, and everybody's on the same page, you nearly eliminate the button hook thing, right? Because as this guy starts moving forward, this guy should be getting as close to stacked up behind him as possible, and he's just watching him to see which way he goes, and then he's reacting off of him, and he's not doing this button hook where he's coming from here and turning this way, okay? Because he's already in a neutral position, so they should almost both be in a neutral position. So whenever I'm the number 2 man, this is how it looks, right? Coming up here, let's just say it's a narrow hallway, and you can't fit side by side. So let's just say it looks like this. You can only fit one officer in the front. So he's coming up this way, he's starting to scan into the room, and we'll just do it quickly, like pretend I'm moving fast. This isn't a slow pie situation. So he's coming up this way, he's gonna step center, he's looking into the room, collapsing it down, he steps center. When he steps center, this guy is, you know, kind of hugging this wall, and he's picking up this hard angle here, right? So just based off of what we've done here already, we have seen all of this. We've seen all of this, right? Because now he's center and he's looking that way. He already came from this way, right? And so as we go into the room, if he goes this way, this guy starts to stack up behind him, and they are, you know, as close to possible doing one of these and collapsing the room back down. He was first into the room, so he will try and go 2 corners. And now he's looking deep into this area over here. And now we're gonna need more deep. Well, we could just do it with 2, right? So, I mean, do you guys want me to do this with 2 guys? Because I'll do it with 2 guys, because on patrol we have to search with 2. I never have 4 guys, and I definitely don't have 4 guys that know what they're doing. So we'll just say 2, right? So what's going to happen here is he can start to choke up a little bit, but his perspective is looking this way. This officer is moving this direction, but his perspective is looking this way. So they're in a cross coverage situation, right? He has all this, he has what he can see here. And what I would do in this situation if this is a small room or it looks small or whatever, I would push right and hold left. Push right and hold left. So as they're coming up towards each other, they're gonna signal to each other. You know, we do barrel waves, so we're both looking at this way. Barrel wave, we said, hey, push right, hold left, push right, hold left. So we do the barrel wave, and then they're stepping together, body armor to body armor, and he's covering this direction as he comes in here and clears this, right? You only have 2 guys, that's what I would do, because the other option is you really want to send 2 dudes into a room together all the time. But if you don't have 3, then this would be better if you had 3, right? Because then they would come in here together, and then they would come in here and do this, then stack up on him. He'd probably push back and hold this angle here. Once they're in a stack and they're ready to go, get a squeeze, step center again, and then, you know, just basically do this, you know, execute the same plan, left, right, and all that stuff. But if you had 2 guys, which sucks, the other option is to send 2 guys into the room, which if it's not opposing like this and they're just actual rooms, where like if I go with him, I'm not exposing my back and our backs to a threat we haven't cleared, that would be an idea. But the other option is that you go in here together, and I don't like that because we're turning our back on this and we haven't seen any of this yet. But like, that's a question, like your odd shaped rooms. I mean, you always have to look at them, but the general guiding principle is opposing threats, right? When there's opposing threats, it's always going to be cross coverage, opposing threats, and then you are releasing those threats to each other to go in turn, right? But you have to know that, otherwise you don't know what's going on at all, and you'll never get there. But once you know where you're going, once you make entry into the room, what your responsibility is, then then you see these. This could be a dresser. I mean, this could be a couch. It could be, they call them impediments, right? So they're things that prevent you from either being able to run, or from being able to run your route, right? So this wall and this wall is an impediment because it forced him to not be able to, run his route all the way to his corner. Because if he does that or they start moving, they're going to overexpose themselves and they can't do that. So that would be the same thing if there was like I said, like a dresser right here. We'll just say like there's a dresser here with some dead space over here. And you know that because you know there's more wall left. You can see it over top the dresser or whatever. But you would come in here, check here, scan back, and then the same thing would happen. Right, you barrel wave to each other, release it, you'd check here, and then you turn around, and then you come over here, and instead of just like V-lining it straight for here and doing something, work the angle, right? See as much of this as you can as possible. So as you're moving up this direction, and you start to move, take up all of this, right? You've already turned your back from here, and you've already seen, this, and you've sucked into here. You might as well come back up and try to eliminate as much of this as you can. But there's endless ways. But you gotta know what the guiding principles are. Is there another question?
A couple people asked, what do you think of Orion Training Group?
I'm buddies with actually, Will from Stuffs and Pews, or Will Stuffs and Pews on Instagram. He's gonna be in my class. I'm buddies with him. I like him. He's a good guy. He's a really good guy. But to be honest with you, I don't pay attention to what other people are doing because I'm so busy trying to do my own thing. And I think that they're on a different mission. So that's cool. I don't talk about other companies or people. And I don't know enough about them to say, or anybody to say like their stuff isn't good or it is good or whatever. I do know that they're like good dudes, and like what I always say is where you find good people, you find good information. So, I don't really know though, to be honest with you. I know they're into the civilian stuff, and they do a lot of that. So.
What are your thoughts on the difference between LEO, SOF, and Civi CQB training and tactics?
LEO what?
LEO, SOF?
Yeah, special operations.
And civilian. I'm thinking Civi means civilian.
Yeah, what's the difference between them? Or what do I think?
What are your thoughts on the differences between?
Like CQB is CQB. It doesn't really matter what uniform you're wearing or why you're doing it, because we're all doing it for that, the standard. But I don't know how to answer that question. I think I've trained with some of the, I'm gonna say, special guys in the past, and they make mistakes just like everybody else does. They have a different mission set. They do things that, like I didn't get into it with the guy, but when we were talking about CQB, like his thing was like, you got to throw bangers, and it's like, well, fuck, dude, like, because we don't, and like if you don't think that, this everything is so different from military. I talk about the differences between military and law enforcement a lot. One of the things, and this is maybe off topic or whatever, but I go on the Instagram, you'll see a couple of things I posted recently. And I think maybe people think that I'm like digging on special forces guys or whatever, and I'm not. I'm pointing out the differences between law enforcement and military, because some of those military guys, when we talk about tactics or when that's part of the discussion, they want to basically like implicate us in what they do and say the stuff that we do is wrong. And it's like, everything we do in law enforcement, unless it's hostage rescue or after shooter, is slow, because we have to do it slow because there's no other options. We have like certain legal things we have to follow. You know, why would we send officers into a room when we can send robots? You know, like they don't have the capabilities or the time to do that. And some of them think that because we do that, that's wrong because it's not speed, surprise, and violence of action. And that's why I post the things, you know, about them or whatever. You know, like I posted a video, it's like DevGru, and they did like a vehicle interdiction thing. And it's funny. It's funny. Because the vehicle interdiction is them landing on a Black Hawk, getting online and mag dumping on this vehicle of bad guys, which is totally awesome. Like, I wish I was there. But we shouldn't also pretend that that's very technical. You know what I mean? And I've done both. I haven't done that Black Hawk thing, but I was in the military, in the Marines, and I've been law enforcement, and so I know what the difference is. Because in Afghanistan, it's like, where'd that come from? Over there. Like, where? 300 meters, the tree line. Okay, blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, it's just a whole nother thing. What's this guy doing?
Hold on.
FIFA Presto? Is he shooting cops or something?
What are you talking about?
I don't know. It's like guns. There's like squirt guns and... Oh, I think that's...
I think I blocked that person.
Oh, yeah. Get that guy out of here.
You can... I think...
If you guys agree with me on the military thing, you should like this video. Because there's only 13 likes, but there's like 43 people watching. I don't know. I think it might help me reach more people. I don't know. It is kind of weird asking people to do that thing. I'm not good at that. I got better at it at one point for some reason on the YouTube, or it just felt more natural. So I guess I kind of started making a joke about it. The like and subscribe. It is weird, but it is something that you should do to remind people because, you know, since I've been asking, I've asked twice and I've gotten 10, you know, more likes. So you ask and people do some things. But I think like YouTube will like it and be like, oh, hey, let's show this to more people, which is the goal. Anyways.
When you're clearing a room, how often is it dark? What do you do if it's dark when you're clearing the room?
First,
strobe light. That was a question. Strobe light.
Oh. No, like, first you need a weapon light, and it needs to be mounted on your gun, and if you're a weird person that carries a handheld light in their hand and then their gun light in their other hand, I don't know. Like, I work in a large city, and we point our guns at everything that you should be pointing your guns at. That means pointing your guns at threat areas where, like, you don't know if somebody's there or not. And I've mentioned that before, and some people get weird about that. Like, and I'm not asking the civilians. I know you guys are like, whoa, but like, I've had cops get weird about that. And I think it's because they don't work in that same type of environment where that's a normal thing. But I have a light on my gun, and I have a handheld light, and I use those when it is appropriate to use them. But if it's low light or no light, and you can't see, you need a throw light. Yeah, there is a strobe option, and in the past, I used to use that, but only when I was like trying to gain compliance or had gained compliance from a suspect, but I was trying to disorient him and distract him by using my strobe. But I work in the daytime now. But also on lights. Like, I have a mod light on my rifle, and one of the demonstrations that I do in my class is in the daytime, I have students go stand out in front of the car, and I point my rifle at them, you know, with a blue bolt in there, and I shine my light in their face, and to demonstrate like the power of using your light in the daytime. And I use my light in the daytime because for that reason, disorienting and distracting. and it works well for that. But I did answer that question.
Is the point man always right on CQB?
Yes, he is. He's always right. Unless you like stop or something, but yeah, you go left or go right, it doesn't matter. And I've had a guy, which was a very odd experience for me, who had been trained my whole life, and then I had a guy basically trying to tell me that what I did was messed up when, like you said, he's not wrong. He's like, yeah, but you got to think about the number 2 guy. And I'm like, he's like, well, if he's left-handed or right-handed, I'm like, I'm not fucking thinking about what hand the guy is behind me. I don't have any idea. Unless I know the guy and I know he's right-handed or whatever. It's like, I'm not making decisions based off how that guy carries his rifle. And again, in his explanation of the bad guy being in the room under the circumstances that he wanted me to do it, I tried to explain to him, like, the way that you're telling me to go would have caused me to get rounds, like it would have taken us longer to shoot the guy. And he was like, yeah, but we would have had 2 guns in the fight. I think the guy's name was Joe. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, but he's not wrong. Oh, we should. Somebody want to? I don't know. I like the.
There was a question. I'm trying to find it. Where were you deployed?
Helmand in 2011 and 2012. I mean, I only did 1 combat deployment. Musakala was the name of the village, mainly.
What can you tell me about Paul Ekman?
I don't know who that is.
Is that grip tape on your shroud?
Yeah, it's hockey tape, but it's just to hold down the light, basically the cord, so it doesn't get in the way. It straps it down.
Should CQB be a fast-moving thing, or should you take your time?
There's different ways to do CQB, and you do it based on what the mission is. That's how you move. So if you're searching a house for a person who may or may not be there, which is 99% of the searches that cops do, then you should do it slow and methodically. For a number of, the list of reasons why are pretty long. So in the video that's coming out, I say the first thing that a person teaching a CQB course should say to their students is that the last thing that you want to do is end up in the room with a person who has a gun and is trying to kill you. But if you do, because you didn't know he was in there or you had to go in there, then the tactics and techniques that I'm going to teach you today are going to limit the levels of destruction. Assist you in limiting the levels of destruction. Not assist you in winning, right? Because when the standard exists, which is a bad guy with a gun trying to kill you, cops almost always get shot. And so you don't want to go in the room with the guy with the gun. But there's dynamic, which essentially is, when people hear dynamic, they mostly, it's a reference for speed, like it means you're moving quickly. So there's three. So there's dynamic, which really just means you're moving quickly, and then there's deliberate, which means you're still moving quickly, but but also taking your time, if that makes sense. So the difference is like stepping center and then going into the room would be just dynamic, versus a deliberate would be, maybe you work the whole threshold before you go into the room, like you pie all the way across. but you maybe not even doing that slow. You know, kind of moving quickly, and then you have a covert search, which is actually what cops do and should be doing. They're not good at it usually because they don't get enough training or whatever. But you know, here's a question for you guys. One thing that I don't do inside of houses when I'm searching for people, so like the most recent one that I had, um, I can't remember who called. I think a neighbor called. Someone was stabbed. Get over there. It was an apartment complex. There's blood all over the ground, but there was nobody there, or we didn't really know what happened. Talked to the neighbor, said, "Oh, this dude was stabbed in the back, like he was bleeding bad." And right outside the door, there was a T-shirt that had a lot of blood on it. So I'm like, looked at the dude, like, "Hey, you ready? We're going." He's like, "Yeah." So I checked the door first. I was like, "Hey, it's open. We're going." He's like, "All right." So I, you know, push the door open or whatever, which I use my foot because that's how I do it. Get the door open, crack it, and then use your foot so you can be up on the gun. I have a video on that on the YouTube. But anyways, go in there. Pretty much a disaster in terms of CQB because I got dudes that have never done it. Long story short, I go right, he goes left. And the other officer was like in there with his gun in his holster and like wouldn't go with him. And he's like, "Dude, come on." And I'm just like holding on my thing. I'm like, "Oh shoot," like, okay, whatever. So I end up clearing most of that room, the bedroom by myself from the outside, and didn't appear anybody was in there. So I made entry by myself. You know, and because we are looking for potentially an injured person who needs our help, so I go in there, collapse, whatever, you know, CQB myself that room, and then go, you know, there's a bathroom attached to that room. And, you know, you can basically clear the whole bathroom from outside and see that the curtain on the shower is closed. And that's something that I don't do. I don't walk up to shower curtains and move them. There's a officer, I think he was an officer, I think he was a DA investigator. Been trying to find the dude's contact information. He's been on some podcasts and told the story, but it was like 2016 or 17. He was, you know, again, like he's a DA investigator. Dude doesn't train, I'll just tell you right now. I don't know the guy, but I'm assuming because that's, you know, investigators don't do that. Went in there with some other officers that don't really train, looking for a guy who the girlfriend said he wasn't there. It was like domestic violence or something like that. Maybe a protective order or something. Like, "Oh, he's not here. Like, can we check?" "Yeah, go ahead." Long story short, the investigator makes it to the bathroom, got his gun out, moves the shower curtain, bang, bang, bang. Guy's behind the shower curtain, shoots the shit out of him. He falls down, drops his gun. Bad guy picks up his gun. Bad guy tells him to get on his knees, and he's pointing both his own gun at him and the suspect's gun. And he's basically telling him, like, "You're gonna fucking die today." And he got shot a lot. I think he got like shot like maybe like 5 or 6 times, 7, whatever it was. And, you know, that's the reality of a speed, surprise, and violence of action, to be honest with you. Not that they did that, but like my question is, how do the guys that preach speed, surprise, and violence of action handle a closed shower curtain? I mean, I can tell you how they handle it. They just fucking go up there and they fucking move it, right? And they got it. Like, "Oh, I got this." And if you had to do it because you're trying to rescue a hostage or something, then you got to do it. You got to eat it, right? But how do I handle closed shower curtains? I fucking throw something at the shower curtain, and I make sure that there's nobody behind there waiting to kill me. And that's what I did in that instance, and I've done it a number of times. You know, so what do? You know, you're holding on this bathroom, okay, everything else is clear, like the shower curtain's closed. Well, you know, am I worried about somebody busting through the shower curtain and coming to kill me as I'm looking around and I grab a pillow off the ground? Like, no, because I'm going to hear the curtain move anyways, right? And I don't remember exactly how I situated how I did it, but I threw a pillow at the shower curtain like I've done a bunch of times. And, you know, that's a covert searching tactic, right? I just call it covert because it's just basically covert. Yeah, you're trying to be quiet and all that, but it's really an indication as to the speed and the tactics that you're using to search things or look for things. So, yeah, I've done that a number of times, and sometimes it comes right down. Usually in these houses in the city, they just fall. because they're not up there very well to begin with. And sometimes they don't, so you have to do it again, and you have to do it again until you get to a point where you're like, okay, at least it moved enough that I'm pretty positive there's nobody in there, and if they are, they're laying down. So you're like, okay, now I'm just gonna go check it. Like, that's the kind of stuff that, you know, cops need to be thinking about and cops need to be doing, and they're not. Like, you know, you had the I haven't watched the whole video. I posted about it on my Instagram, but I've been talking about this running up on vehicles thing for a while. It's one of those things that I talk about. You shouldn't be doing it. You know, it actually violates your own policy, most likely to do it. And, you know, what happened is what has happened in the past. So officers were up on a vehicle, like on a dude who I think he ran or whatever, and he was refusing to get out, and they had tased him, they had done all these things, and and it's an impossible task to like remove somebody from a vehicle and not and maintain a tactical advantage while you're doing it. So at some point you have to go, okay, like, hey guys, hey, back up. Like, let's get back. Let's get behind our cars and let's start giving them voice commands. And let's do that, you know, and that is the opposite of what speed, surprise, and violence of action guys think you should do. And instead, you should vehicle extraction. We should be doing vehicle extraction. It's like, oh, I should be reaching in there to control this guy's hands and like pushing his head away with my arm to like unbuckle him. It's like, yeah, at some point, maybe we have to do that, you know, because like SWAT's not coming or you don't have SWAT and you're like, hey guys, we're the guys that have to handle this problem. Okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna move up there with the shield. You're gonna stand here, I'm gonna stand there, and we're going to pepper spray him and then see what happens. And we're gonna pull back, you know, or we're gonna go up there and I'm on the taser, and so hey, if he doesn't comply, we're going to you know, tase him or do whatever, you know, block in his vehicle, right? So develop a plan to pin his vehicle so he can't go anywhere. I think in that case that guy drove off or at least escaped and wasn't found until sometime later, I believe. But like, step one, contain the vehicle. Like, if this just keeps happening, we just keep going and going and going. Anyways, that might be a tactic that your department allows you to do, but otherwise, more or less, it's going to be a supervisor usually that authorizes that, I guess. I mean, because our patrol officers aren't trained to do that, but I am. So if I have the opportunity to do it, I do it. Yeah. What did he ask me? Something about, I got into like the covert. Oh, different. I think I answered the question. Different. How fast should you be going? The mission will dictate your speed. But at the moment in which you decide to cross the threshold, however you got there, you need to go quick, because you know, they use speed as cover. They call it. Just try not to get shot. What else we got?
Lots of spammers. Hi. Priscilla Munoz, sup nerd.
If you're gonna spam, then like this freaking video. There.
Why is this girl trying to flirt with you?
Is she?
And she says sup nerd. Who's Priscilla Munoz?
Tyler, is it Yo? Is that where we're at? You should have a device you could pull over the tire as you approach that could immobilize the vehicle. They do make things. I don't know what those things are. I've actually seen in videos cops use them where they put it down underneath the tire, so when they drive off it deflates the tire. But like, I need to figure out what I'm gonna do, and you know, I just like to point out, I've talked about that cop getting killed, and I've made my point on the matter, and I think a lot of people get it, and some people like are like, you're mean, or you should be sensitive or something. Like, dude, the tragedy is that those cops were likely like most other cops that don't care about making good decisions, that don't care about training, and you know, yeah, like he left behind a family, and that's sad as shit. But like, it's sad. The sad thing is that you didn't care enough about your job to like put in the work to make sure that you could come home to your kids. But anyways, what was I gonna say? Oh, yeah, I'm gonna look up the department's policy, and I'm gonna find it probably. If I do, and it says, you know, felony stop procedures, and it says like don't rush the vehicle or whatever, I'm gonna post it because it's gonna be like it shows. Most of the time, you guys are violating your own policy when you do stuff like this. You know, we had cops that got into a shooting. They ran up on the car. The guy reached for a gun, and they shot him, which is, you know, justifiable. But they were never supposed to be there to begin with because the department doesn't want you shooting people, which is obvious. And they got a bunch of days off for it, which sucks. Which could have been like you lost your job or whatever, which also sucks. What do we got? Anything?
In what instance would full auto be a valuable option for neutralizing a threat?
Never. Actually, in my Surviving the Street community, which if you want to join the community of cops, then you can find the link in my videos. I've been putting it in the videos. Cancel anytime, you know, if you feel like you're not getting value out of it. But one of the officers in there who's, he's the trainer or something, but he has something to do with the rifles. They have full auto and they issue them to patrol. And I cannot believe that they do that. It's so crazy. Our SWAT team has full auto and has never used it. I've used it on accident once at least on the range. You know, like I really don't like shooting like forever. Like that shit's exhausting. And you know, used to shoot a lot, but I don't know why I'm telling you that or why that matters. But there was a time where I came out of a car and like just like went to go, you know, off safe and you know, like it was like a 3-round burst or something, and it went into the, presumably went into the target. But that can happen. And then you also have cops, you know, new cops that think like, oh, I got a full auto gun. Like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna use this thing. And like they might even deliberately like put it on full auto because they want to try it, you know. And it's like, dude, we can't hit people on fucking semi. You definitely not hitting crap on full auto. It's silly. It should never be a thing.
It's great that he has you and your support. It's hard to find a good moderator.
Who?
So this skeleton fall guy.
Who? You?
No, I didn't know you. I'm seeing.
Who's a moderator?
I have no idea. I already subscribed to your channel. I really like your YouTube channel.
Thank you, sir. I'm probably a sir. You're probably a sir.
Yeah, Cam. Are we planning a robbery? I'll mod for crack.
I was planning a robbery. I wouldn't tell you I was. That'd be silly.
What's this live about?
Just hanging out, dude. What is that? You guys, like, what is the, do live? I mean, this is the second time I've done a live on YouTube, and I'm just wondering, do they have to be about something? Like, can we just hang out and talk? I mean, this seems to be going okay. I mean, you guys are asking questions. I'm trying to answer them to the best of my ability. I have CQB questions behind me. We can talk about that. We can ask those. I mean, but also like, I don't know. Yeah.
Thank you for your service too. I really appreciate you, Cam.
Yeah. Oh, I appreciate you. I want to. Okay, can you click on that?
Click on what?
Well, never mind. It's not going to take you anywhere. I was like the cam guy. All mod and drive the car. All mod. What's mod?
Moderate. I don't know.
Is he my getaway driver?
Dude, this guy is.
Like, what even is this live? This is new and weird. Oh, I guess that's a good question. What is it? I don't know. There is something new going on with lives, which is why I kind of wanted to hop on here. And the only thing I know about it is that it's supposed to be like a scrolling thing where people are watching shorts, I think, and then they can like see a live, and then they can just like watch it. That's what happens on TikTok. TikTok is so weird. I have a TikTok for the brand, but I don't go on there to like do things. But when or to like browse, but every now and then I'm like accidentally there, and I'll be scrolling, and it's so weird. TikTok is the oddest thing of all time. It's so weird. Like people doing weird stuff, making money. Yo, what up?
A couple people found you that way by going through
what?
Shorts.
Oh, really? That's cool.
How many flashbangs through the door before entry?
One. If we're talking about law enforcement, it's one, and it's a single bang, and it's called a diversionary device, and you pull the pin, step, look, and place. That's how it works. But yeah, just one. But also, I guess we do have 9 bangs too, so it's one, but it bangs 9 times.
How many grenades?
Dude, grenades. You throw as many as it takes until whatever's on the other side stops doing what they're doing. That's the right answer. It's so funny. I do realize that in my videos, some people, I have fun with like YouTube comments, mostly, because nobody's serious. Like the serious people are like, hey, good job, or hey, I like this video, or whatever, or like they leave an opinion or they say something about the thing, and it sounds like they know something about it, but it's usually not negative. Because I try to do a good job at demonstrating my perspective and point of view instead of just telling you like this is what you should do and this is why you should do it. And I think videos, the value in videos has always been underrated or undervalued, because you know, being in a class for like the police stuff and they're like talking about decisions and talking about use of force, and it's like, dude, I'd really be thrilled if you guys showed a video right now. So even in my class, both of my classes, we watch a lot of videos because it's, well, I've never been in a class that did, right? So I don't know, like law enforcement related, but let's say CQB, right? I don't think that you're gonna go to a class, I could be wrong, well, that you're gonna go to a class and someone's gonna teach you about CQB and they're gonna show you videos of real life interactions where somebody used the technique that they teach and say, look, this is why it's valid, right? Or show you instances where people failed and they could have used the technique, which is what I do. Because in the instances where, let's say, for example, like the speed, surprise, violence of action whole thing, like, it's like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna show us the video of the guy that was asleep on the couch and be like, see, it worked, you know? So there's not a lot of videos out there, because, and the videos that are out there that to demonstrate the thing that they preach doesn't end well for the cop. And if they did, they would show a video of a guy shooting a guy at the threshold, which has happened a number of times somewhat recently. And that is kind of contrary to what Joe and other people believe you should be doing. But in my class, I show, kind of like mess with it a little bit, but I start off with a PowerPoint I try to make it really quick, but, you know, because I do have to explain some things, you know, talk about mindset, posture, and things like that. But then I show one video of what not to do. I say, like, this is what everybody's doing, this is what I've done in the past, and this is what you're still probably doing if you haven't taken my course. And this is all the things you don't want to do. And I show the video and I point out all the wrong things that delay you getting to marksmanship. And when you do get there, it makes marksmanship more difficult because, yeah. And then we go out there and we do the thing, the practical application, demonstrate it, show it to them, talk to them about it. They start doing it. Then we do the scenario stuff. And then at the end of the day, we go back into the classroom and we end with more videos of cops that were in positions to use the technique but didn't because they don't know. And they just did the thing that everybody always does. And then I show videos of myself, my other teammates, and I'm waiting for some of the students to send me the videos of them doing it because, again, it shows like this is what you shouldn't be doing. This is why you shouldn't be doing it. And then here's us actually doing it. It validates the technique. It just doesn't show that it's something that we talk about or something that I talk about and say like I believe this is the best because this is my stuff. It's like I'm showing you. I just think that that's powerful. And I don't know of any other course curriculum class that does that. And I will always do that because the classes that I teach and I'm going to teach are all what I think is the most practical things related to law enforcement that they should be doing and that they should know. The high-risk vehicle encounters, it's like the fastest way that you could put accurate rounds on a person from your vehicle if you need to do that without shooting through your windshield. That's that class. And then I have exploiting accuracy, which is, educating individuals on the physiological responses that affect and human behavior that affects marksmanship in high-stress situations. And then, the next one that I want to do is a foot pursuit class. And that's, again, one of the most relevant classes or courses to cops because it's the thing they do most often. They get no training on it. And there's a lot of things they do that they shouldn't be doing. Anyways, we got anything else?
Gun recommendations for first-time buyer looking to be safe.
What are you going to use the gun for, though? I guess I have to answer that question. If you're going to use it for something like just like keep in your house in a box or in the safe and then take it to the range to shoot. And then the question is like, is that you want it to be a rifle or pistol? And I will say that, there's some reputable brands. I think I'm the most reasonable dude when it comes to gear and guns. Because I like stuff that is reputable, right? I don't get in a conversation about like Chevy and Ford and which one's better and all this crap. It's like, does it work? Does it have a good track record? Do they have problems? So I carry a Glock 19 on duty. I have a SIG P320 or SIG P320 X carry or something like that as like my bedside gun. And then I have a Glock 43X as like my off-duty. So just depends. But I would say a semi-automatic, if you're getting a pistol, semi-automatic pistol, the more rounds you can carry comfortably carry is always preferred. But
What state do you live in?
Texas.
How do you deal with the trauma of combat?
That's a good question. Oh, I'll tell you this. I don't know I think we talked about it. There was a podcast I did on, if you go on the page, go to podcasts and scroll down, you'll see a person, I think it was me, but walking in a cornfield in Afghanistan, and it says, I don't know if it's transitioning out of the military or leaving combat or something like that. But just maybe listen to that. I think we get into some of that stuff. And I don't think I got real detailed, but trauma from combat. Well, look, I think if you guys are into this kind of stuff, like whatever, Sean Ryan show or whatever military people, men that have a desire to go fight for their country or just like whatever, like Marines, right? Like nobody joins the Marine infantry because they're like, I hope we don't see combat. Like I hope we don't have to fight people. You know, that's the thing that you want. And I know people that, you know, got out of the Marines and didn't get that opportunity and had a hard time dealing with that. And the truth is that, like, I guess like it's an experience to experience, but almost always the thing that you are after that is like you know, whatever, for whatever reason, like it makes you a badass or you feel cool or whatever that is. A lot of people wish they didn't have those experiences. So and like and that if you listen to those Sean Ryan things and these guys, they talk about these things, it's like it's never good. I mean, the ones that I've seen, you have to deal with stuff or whatever. But I think, was it time heals all wounds?
Mm-hmm.
So I think like the more time you put between the thing, the easier it becomes. But everybody's situation is different and it affects them differently. And yeah.
Do you think the police are underfunded? And how do you think local government should fix that problem?
I think that, no, I think like police agencies relatively are funded, you know, because they're funded really by the government themselves, like they're grants, right? Like all kinds of grants. You know, there's grant writers. Police departments have grant writers that write grants and get them money for things. So I guess like underfunded, I'd ask like for what, like to pay cops to work overtime or like for gear. I don't know, like training, sure. So I guess the government, there's no fixing the problem, honestly. And that's why I just like preach to people like it's up to you to be the most capable individual you can be, right? Because there's that thing that people say is like nobody's coming for you, you know, you're on your own. And that's the truth. You know, I think it's different for different people. Like LAPD looks like they have their stuff together, from what I can tell. What?
I just thought that was funny how you.
Oh.
LAPD.
I was watching a video, the shooting from LAPD, and the only thing that they do that's bad is they almost always have their radio in their hand because they refuse to wear lapel mics for whatever reason. But whatever LAPD is doing in terms of training their cops, every department in the nation needs to implement what they're doing. And I think what it is I think the patrol officers train 1 week out of the month. It's just like you're gonna get like terrible results. Like you're gonna continue to get cops doing things and then, you know, doing things you don't want them to be doing in terms of performance if we don't put in the effort to train them. I'm going off on a thing, but I don't think I think when you start talking about governments and funding, it's like we're talking about politics, and anytime there's politics involved in shit, it just doesn't work good. And people do things for reasons that aren't of the interest of, you know, what we would value. You know what I mean? So you get money, but the money's going over here because of this, you know, whatever that thing is. So unfortunately, got to buy your own stuff, train yourself, and not, I mean, I've been meaning to post this, but I don't know if I should. Like, it aggravates me that I get in a police car and I don't have a cup holder. Like, that's aggravating. You know, like, I was going to post something and say, like, something about budget cuts and be like, the first thing they go when we make budget cuts is, like, no cup holders in police cars. And, like, so I got a coffee the other morning, and instead of a cup holder, there's just, like, an open, you know, rectangle. and it was kind of my fault anyways, but I had like a snack or something, and I had my coffee there, and I had it wedged up against that so it didn't spill. And I think I moved the thing. Oh, I had a burrito, breakfast burrito. And I like just like barely made a turn, and the whole coffee just went on the floor. Like it just went. I heard it just go like a splash. Like, and I was like, oh no! I reached over and I got it, and I was like pissed for like an hour about how we didn't have cup holders. So, and you know, like another thing is like in the back of our patrol cars, you know, when I first got on, like there was all kinds of stuff back there that you could use. There was stop sticks. There was not stop sticks, but I forget what they call them. Spike strips, flares. You know, the SUVs had, you know, storage, and now there's nothing back there. It's just a flat thing. And so like we get these cases of things in this shield, and we get all this stuff that we have to take to our car, and then like, you know, it just gets fucking thrown around because there's nowhere to put it. And that, it's aggravating. Like every morning that's an aggravation, you know. We can't secure things properly. It's like, it's thank you that you, but it's like, thank you that you gave me this 40 millimeter with a red dot in this Pelican case. You know, I guess you gave it to me in the Pelican case because you're like, well, I know we don't have, you know, whatever. It's like, I literally opened up the back hatch, and it, well, it did hurt my foot, busted my foot, but it fell straight to the ground. Again, aggravation, you know? It's like, I'm not aggravated that the thing fell on my foot. I'm aggravated that we don't have a place to secure it properly. But what can you do? You guys want to like this video or something though? I mean, come on, don't be weird.
Do you have a legendary scar?
A legendary scar?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
A scar.
A scar. Oh, like a gun?
A scar. I took it as like a scar, like a legendary scar, like this little wicked scar.
I don't think so.
Well, then I don't know.
Do I?
I don't think so.
I think if I hold this gun like while I talk, people will follow.
They said be careful with the guns on here because YouTube can ban you.
Yeah, I know. We had that conversation, remember?
Well, someone else commented on it also.
Okay, no more guns. That's doesn't make sense. I mean, I get it, but like, is that just alive though? It's got to be alive because I have guns in my videos. You know what's crazy? TikTok, which I just kind of got into the TikTok thing. Well, actually, no, I have to take that back. In the beginning, 2 years ago, I started the TikTok along with the YouTube channel, and I didn't know anything about TikTok, and I just assumed since Yahoo News was posting a police shooting with blood all over the place, that I could also post videos of police shootings where there wasn't blood, where they got millions of views and likes and all that stuff, and that's okay. But it turns out you can't, and we're going to restrict your videos. So I basically got no. I basically got a 3 strikes or community guidelines or whatever, and I got like, basically I was like, okay, this isn't gonna work. So I got rid of that TikTok, and then when I did the rebranding thing, I started it back up again with the idea of trying not to show stuff in the body cameras that I do when I do post them on there, which I'm probably not gonna even post them on there anymore. Because one of them got restricted, and then another video got restricted where I was holding the blue gun, the Glock, demonstrating something about a door. And I appealed it, and they're like, nope, you did violate the community guidelines. And I was like, well, that sucks, you know? So, yeah, it's a challenge, because it's like the TikTok is helping. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but hopefully it drives people over to the YouTube, because that's where I see the value. But it's hard, and so like right now, I only see like YouTube as like a avenue of growth, because it seems like they allow me to post the stuff that I want to post. Now I am careful, I think. There's certain things like, I don't know, that you want to try to stay away from, but so far I've been good. They've actually restricted some of my videos, and I appealed it, and they what do they call it when they like agree with the appeal? So that's pretty good. I haven't had any issues with YouTube yet. So, anything else?
I appreciate the fact that your channel fuels my confirmation bias. Jokes aside, I feel like you're putting out valuable information.
Thank you, sir.
Cam said, 100% agree. Politics have become very dirty in this country, and it's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
The Free World says, what type of What type of officer are you? Sheriff, trooper, detective, etc. I'm not too familiar with what's the roles and what's some of your beliefs when it comes to what you're doing.
I'm a city cop, like a big city cop. So, patrol. I was doing some other things, and most of the experience that I talk about and the things that I teach and talk about come from my tactical training experience, tactical team experience. But I'm not doing that anymore. But being a patrol officer is the most dangerous job, like on average, right? And the reason that it is the most dangerous over, like, say, the SWAT team or a tactical team is because, tactical teams are very directed, towards a specific goal and more likely towards a specific person or persons. And when you do that, you have the ability to keep everything in front of you and know what, who you're dealing with probably and where they're going to be and what vehicles they'll be driving, and in an unmarked vehicle watching them do whatever. And so, like, the deck is stacked in your favor, whereas on patrol, like, you just never know. Like, you're going to a call that sounds like it's nothing and it turns into something. Or you're investigating an accident and a dude wants to kill you for whatever reason. Domestic calls, you physically fighting people. Like, on the TAC team, you don't, well, I take that back. Some guys, like, when you're like, get on the ground, they try to run. But, but anyways, that's what it is. But what do you say, like, what kind of cop? Or
Well,
did I
yeah, you
answer
answered
it?
that. But what are some of your beliefs when it comes to what you're doing?
I need more specific, directed, pointed question. I guess I don't know on my beliefs. Like, well, I think. So where I work, you put people in jail, they get out of jail like immediately, like next day, and it doesn't matter what the crime is, unless it's like murder. Then you probably stay for a week or something, and then people don't get prosecuted for their crimes. So yeah, these people are right back out there. On the last podcast I did, if you go listen to that one, we kind of debrief a body camera, but the other officer that was talking with me, I didn't know, he told me on the podcast, he's like, because we were talking about like people not going to jail or something like that, and he goes, oh yeah, the guy that, it turns out a guy you arrested for felony assault, like choked his wife and punched his kids or whatever, like, oh yeah, he's out of jail, or they arrested him again last night or something like that. I was like, oh really? He's like, yeah. They had dropped the charges that I put on him, and I don't care. Like, I mean, I guess I care, but just doing what I have to do. Like, I don't have a choice, right? And it's the right thing to do. And he was back at the location beating on that lady again. And when I arrested him, he had like 2 felony warrants. Or no, did he have warrants? No, he was out on bond for aggravated assault, family violence on the female. So that's when I arrested him, right? He was out on bond, assaulting her again, choking her again, hitting his kids, punching his kids. And then I arrested him, and then they dropped the charges I put on him because I guess, like, maybe the female didn't want to, whatever. And they arrested him again for some felony thing of beating her again. That's the way it works. So you have to weigh the cost to benefit, ratio, I guess. Like, I don't know. But that's one aspect to the thing, right? It's like, that's the reality of, well, like, a lot of, like, U.S. cities now, it seems like. I think that, like, certainly people maybe go to jail and they shouldn't, or people definitely spend time in prison for crimes they didn't commit. But, like, I don't know, is, like, the thing where it's, like, they want smaller prisons, or they don't want people in prison, or they don't want people in jail. And I guess my question is, like, what is the real reason why we don't want, I know we don't want people to go to jail, we don't want people in prison, but what would be the real reason to, like, whether it's from the judges or the DA not charging people or whatever, like, what would be the real reason to reduce the amount of people in jail? Is it because it would look better if we can say, man, crime is down, like, we haven't charged as many people this year? And if that is, then, like, that's not right. And so I just really believe that if you can't act like a decent human being, then maybe you should be in jail. Maybe you should be in prison. Because the reason that you are where you are, or you get sent there, is to protect the public, right? Like, to keep you away from society so you don't victimize people. And, I mean, you see it on the news. You see people in the hood, I say hood, but people in the inner cities or whatever. These guys committing crimes, acts of violence or whatever, or aggravated robberies, or, like, there's people, that's what they do. Like, in major cities, like, that's their thing. They're after the bag, right? They're after money. So they will rob places. They will steal people's cars. And so, yeah, I don't know if that helps. There's a lot to go with that.
Keep up the good work. It's refreshing to hear honesty and no egos.
I try.
If you were running for office, you would have my vote.
Dude. I don't like the government. I mean, I say that, I don't mean it like I'm a tinfoil hat guy. A long time ago, I stopped watching the news. A long time ago. Because when you watch the news, it, like, makes you think about those things that either are or are not happening, and they're saying it because they're trying to get you to persuade you to do something or say something or feel a certain way. And then, like, once you separate yourself from the news, it's like you don't even know what's happening. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So there's this person that's
I don't have it.
that's the United States. That's their name, and it says, "What did you say? You don't like the government?"
I took it back immediately, though. Can you change your name, though? There's no way. You probably can. You could probably pick a chat name, because none of these are usernames, right?
I don't know, but that's hilarious. The United
If you like my honesty and the lack of ego, I guess, if you want to call it that, then like this video, man. I got 19 likes. Come on.
All
Help
right,
me out.
okay. Oh, that's so funny. The U.S. forgives you.
That's good. I got an American flag on my chest. Goes over to my arm. So I'm like, I'm about that. United States,
Someone said bark for $10.
No, I'm not doing that.
How do you feel about auditors?
Auditors, I think cops are stupid. Are you talking about the people that, like, bait cops into doing things they can't do? I think you are. I would just get in my car and leave. Just walk away. Be like, okay. But we don't have that. Well, there are actually some of those people. But we're not in the area that I work. I don't know. I don't mind them. I also don't mind the people, Like, 'cause I think that cops have to know what they can and can't do. And I think if you get baited into a guy that's doing, like, recording the police station or recording a city building and you're, like, trying to mess with this guy, it's like, you know right off the bat, like, what he's doing, why he's there. And you're just like, I want to be a person on the internet. I want to be famous. And you go over there, like, you shouldn't even be talking to the dude.
Someone said, "Are you actively sworn?"
Yeah. For now.
Stop.
I'm only Canadian.
Someone with the name Your Mom says, "Yo, can you say happy birthday to me?"
Happy birthday to your mom?
Taylor says, "What's your occupation?"
Police officer.
What about the UCC 301-C? What's that?
Damn, dude. Don't know. Don't turn into a what's that guy's name? Grateful Ed or Grateful? What's his name?
Oh yeah, Grateful Ed.
Grateful Ed.
That was last time.
Make a clip for the
Clap.
oh.
Make it clap. Babe.
I can't see. I'm so far away.
Oh gosh. The news make you very depressed. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
They make you think.
The U.S. is leaving, but they will have the FBI watching you.
Dude, I'll tell you right now, the FBI, this is a wild bunch of dudes. You don't want to be involved in an incident and the FBI shows up, their FBI team, tactical team, or whatever you call them, SWAT team, because they don't have the greatest track record of doing the right thing with gunfire, so.
Are you in a city near the border? I heard a lot about people crossing into Texas, but don't know anyone who lives in Texas who can share what they actually see about what's going on.
What? I was reading.
Are you in a city near the border?
No, I'm not. I don't know, that's another one of those things, like the border. I do know that I got to work today and I took a call for an assault. And I was looking at the call slip and it was like Spanish speaker. And then I was like, oh, we don't even have one here right now. So I asked for another call because can't get there and not be able to talk to him. And then later in the day, I went to another call that was a Spanish speaker, and I showed up, and the neighbors were yelling at each other, and I was just standing there listening. And they were coming towards me and telling me stuff that happened in Spanish, and I said, yo no sé. And I waited a pretty long time for somebody else to show up. And then that person called somebody that knew Spanish. So that's an enjoyable experience. I wish I just knew Spanish better, or at all, really. That would be great. But, yeah.
Did you go back to patrol or a special unit? That's what Robert asked.
Back to patrol.
Thanks for keeping us safe. What's your favorite cop movie or most realistic?
I'm not a big movie guy. Pretty boring.
That's for sure.
But there's one of the most recent movies that I saw, I think it's a movie about like the cops or like bad guys. I think the name of the movie is like a number, something like 2343 or something like that. The only thing I remember about the movie is that like the stuff in the movie, the tactics or whatever, like actually legit, or like it was realistic. But I don't really know. I don't even remember the last movie that I watched. Oh, I do. It was what was that movie we watched with the kids in the movie theater with the birds?
I don't remember what it's called. Migration.
Yeah, I watched Migration, dude.
And Mission Turtles.
Mission Turtles, yeah.
Oh, the guy who said something about the code UCC or something. UCC 301-C.
Yeah.
Uniform Commercial Code. You're a police officer and don't know the real law. That explains who we are and how we should be conducting business. Who was that from the last one? Was that Grateful Ed?
Mm-hmm.
It's like Grateful Ed all over again. This is Otto. Oh, someone changed their name to FBI. Did you see that? Hi, I'm FBI. You can change your name. What are you reading?
Nothing. I put that guy in timeout because I'm.
Which guy? Oh, the guy with the.
Yeah.
Gotcha. What is your go-to service weapon?
I had a Glock 22, or is it 22? It's a 40 cal. When I started, I don't know why I got a 40. I think somebody convinced me. And then I owned a Glock 19. And I still own that gun. That's actually the gun I use now. But then I went from that gun to a SIG P320 X carry with a comp. And then I went back to my Glock with a comp. And now I'm using my Glock 19 without a comp because that shit kind of stopped working. But yeah.
Guys like
If I could
you-
afford a staccato, I would probably own one of those.
Guys like you make cops look good, bro. Keep it up.
Thanks, buddy.
Is that your wife reading the chats? What a supportive queen.
I know.
Love the hubby-wife combo. FBI said America sent me. They want you to shake something.
Yeah, you gotta buy your own gun. You gotta buy, well, pretty much if you want anything that works or is of quality, you just gotta buy it yourself, because I don't know for sure, but I would anticipate or believe that departments spend the least amount of money on the stuff just so you have the thing. What do I think of troopers? Kind of depends. I like that it seems like you actually have to earn that, and being there and staying there isn't necessarily like a given, you know, because you gotta stay in shape somewhat, you gotta take care of your stuff, and I like that I like that, like, from the Marines, you know, having your stuff in order. I don't like their job because they're primarily just traffic, but they have specialized units that do cool things. But like their troopers on the street, they just run traffic, and I don't. I mean, I like traffic, but I'd rather respond to calls and see a variety of things. But they're good people. Usually can handle themselves in terms of like just being physical. I don't like that they put suspects in the front seat with them, at least in Texas. I think that's really weird. What else? Yeah, they're usually good dudes. They do usually, and I've seen them get much better over the years. They're really hard on like rushing vehicles and just like trying to like muscle people all the time. I think it shouldn't do that. From a tactics, their troopers don't exhibit like tactical skills, really, in my opinion. They never came across as that, and they're more like a rough and tough, like handle you kind of cop, which is good occasionally. But I've been seeing lately that they have been more coordinated. I like that. If that answers your question. All right, we got 5 minutes. I gotta go.
Have you ever had an experience where you had to use NV vision during your deploy? I'm thinking night vision.
Yeah, like that's a normal thing. Like,
So you did.
yeah, it's not like experience. What did it say? Like,
Ever had an experience where you had to use night vision during your deploy?
yeah, we used it every single day, every single night. It's because it does what it's supposed to do, which is, you know, collects or uses ambient light to, you know, increase the visibility, you know, within your field of view. So use it like every night, a lot, patrolling and all that stuff. It's pretty worth it. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but nods in law enforcement is a whole nother conversation that we should have at some other point. It's pretty funny.
Chase said, the more that I practice and learn CQB, the more I understand why SWAT constantly gasses rooms or buildings with suspects in them until they come out. Could you give some CQB success stories from patrol?
There are no CQB success stories from patrol, and there isn't a person that, there isn't an instructor that teaches CQB to patrol off, well, I'm kind of generalizing, but kind of being serious, that would be able to claim a CQB success story from a patrol officer, and I'll tell you why. Because there are no patrol officers that get consistent CQB training that I'm aware of. And in order to become proficient at any tactical task, especially CQB, you have to consistently do it, and you can't do it once a year, can't do it twice a year. You have to do it a lot consistently, and you know, part of that is seeing different looks and seeing different things and making different decisions based on what you're seeing, all that stuff. And so we know that officers are not trained in it, like period, basically. And so,
I thought you were done, sorry.
no, and then so for an instructor to claim, which some instructors like to do this in other areas, like, oh, see this thing I taught him, like, look. Well, then you're also admitting like that one day was sufficient enough for him to like be good at that thing. It just doesn't happen. And so you kind of probably missed part of the conversation earlier, but patrol officers do most of the things a whole lot of times more than any SWAT teams do, and they get no training for it. You know, our SWAT team has never shot a person. Well, I take that back, they have, but I mean, I think they have, but while conducting CQB, right? Like while making entry, like, oh, bad guy shooting that guy right there. Like every single engagement has either been like from a marksman, from a window team, out in the open, on a vehicle takedown, but while actually in the function of conducting CQB movements, no. But like patrol officers are most the ones that engage people inside of their houses the most, or inside of residents, inside of structures. So like, yeah, you missed part of the conversation, but there's people that think like speed, surprise, and violence of action is how you handle a bad guy in a room with a gun, and the truth is that nobody should be going into that room. Like, and that's why nobody sends people into those rooms. They do other things. They send in robots. They use gas. Like the best thing that you can do is the person walks out of the room or house or wherever and surrenders. Wow, got him in custody. Didn't have to put myself in an environment, you know, 360 or 180 environment where there could be threats everywhere to get him. That's the best thing. Yeah.
Did you ever use a long rifle?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, rifle in the military is a primary gun weapon. And then for several years, well, even now, I guess like my pistol is my primary weapon, but even in policing, the tactical team stuff, rifle was my primary weapon, but it's not anymore.
do you use reflex on your gun?
Reflex sights? Like what are you talking about exactly? I've heard terminology, but I don't remember what it means. Talking about flip up sights in addition to optics? Could be wrong.
I'm not sure. The U.S. and the FBI are just, yes, red dots.
Yes, you should. You should have one on your pistol and your rifle. And if you can manage it, like I recommend, I'm not going to show the gun, I'm just going to show the optic. The Vortex AMG UH Gen 2. I think this is a Gen 1. I think it's a Gen 2, UH1 Gen 2 or something. But I really like it because of the viewing experience. It's very clean. It's a bigger than your typical aim point dot, red dot view. It's better. It's a better viewing experience than an EOTech, in my opinion. Cleaner, and it actually serves a very specific function and purpose and it does it really well. And that thing is that it has a like circle or half circle with a opening at the bottom. There's a red dot in the middle, and then there's a red triangle at the bottom. And that red triangle is your CQB distance. So inside of 15 yards, roundabout, you're not using the red dot as your aiming point, you're using the triangle, which is something that you should know, especially if you're engaging a hostage taker, which is most likely going to be within 15 yards because the margin for error is, could be small. But I haven't come across a single patrol officer that I've asked them questions about their EOTech that they've been able to answer. It's kind of crazy. Well, EOTech is a good optic, been proven over the years to be reliable, but I just don't believe in like owning something or buying something and not understanding it. So they get these EOTechs and they have all these dots and they don't know what they mean. And there's just more dots than is necessary. The viewing experience isn't as good, in my opinion. I do want to get my hands on that Hollow Sun. I don't know what it's called, but I have like 3 or 4 Hollow Sun red dot optics. They're good. But I like the square. I don't like it on my pistol, but I like the square view on the rifle. It's pretty cool. All right, I gotta go. Anything else, babe?
Is the ACOG worth it?
No. Like, I don't know what you need it, what you would want it for. What I would do, because I think they're pretty pricey, probably like $3,500 or something, right? What are they, 5 by or 3? I can't remember. No. I mean, they're not necessary. Like, the reticle on it, though, I mean, you could, theoretically somewhat reasonably range it out to whatever that it is. I think it might be like 600 or 400 meters or something, because I believe it has the hash marks that which is cool, but I mean, like, you're not going to be fighting Russia and needed to shoot at something at 400 yards. Well, hopefully not. Time will tell. But what I would do is I would get a very reliable red dot with a 3 by magnifier. That's really what you need, because you can use that, out to 100 yards. You could throw the 3 by down, be fine. Flip it up when you start moving in closer and whatnot. And it's everything you need for law enforcement. Or I guess you may not be law enforcement, but yeah. That's all I got, guys. Is that it? Yeah. Is it delayed on your phone?
Yeah.
Oh. All right, people. Thanks for watching my videos and liking my stuff. Appreciate it. I have a feeling this next video is gonna do good because I have some buzzwords in there that people just like they just go crazy over, you know. In the title, you know, when people see that in the title, they're like, "Oh, I gotta click on that, man." All right, just see you guys later.